Greetings, welcome back to Friday 13th YouTube channel. I hope you're enjoying the channel so far. So today you're going to be watching an interview with Gus Pynn from the band Sacrifice, Canadian thrash metal band from the 80s. So we're talking about the band's history. This is part one, so enjoy it. Please share on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and other groups that you can. Thanks very much for watching. Be safe, metalheads, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks for watching. Thank you for doing the interview.
No problem.
We're talking to Gus from the mighty Sacrifice. Now, I've got to say, Gus, Sacrifice are one of my favourite Canadian metal bands, along with Anvil and Exciter. I was a massive Sacrifice fan from the age of like 16, back in the 80s.
Yeah, that's 86,
Yep.
87, something like that.
Yeah, it was 86 to Torment and Fire album. It's kind of weird because I never actually heard your band, but I remember going in the record store and just picking up this album cover. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
these guys look interesting. It's like Slayer's little brothers from Canada.
Yeah, we kind of got that label for a little while there for sure.
Right then, so I'm going to ask you some warm-up questions first, Gus. First of all, I'm going to ask
Sure.
you, as a musician, who did you grow up with? Who was your inspirations as a drummer? Who inspired you to become a drummer? Or was that your first instrument?
Yes, I started playing in '79 a lot. I had a practice kit that my dad provided for me, and I practiced on it a lot. Just simple songs, playing along with records, stuff like that. I got more serious by the time I moved back to Ontario, and I started playing on real drums then. And by the time 83, 84 came, I full on kit, played all the time. Neil Peart was a big influence of mine, as it's been well known with me. John Bonham, and then as time went on, when the new metal became a main thing, like in '84, Lombardo, Abaddon, and Venom. I was listening to Anvil then, metal on metal. That was a big thing for me. Who else? Metallica, especially. Those guys. Ride the Lightning was my first taste of thrash. And then as 1985 came into play, I met the guys that I play with now, and then my musical tastes expanded, and then found Exodus, and we ended up playing with them. Like, my world changed overnight to go from complete obscurity, just a metal fan, and an inspiring drummer, to get to try it for those guys, and the rest was history. And I'm lucky enough to be sitting here today, still doing what I do.
Growing up, what sort of bands inspired you? I want to talk to you first about outside of the Canadian scene. What sort of bands did you grow up with before you?
Well, I remember right out of the gate watching videos, and then seeing Lemmy come across my TV screen and seeing Filthy play. For me, was like fucking. I thought Lemmy was like fucking 7 feet tall, man. The way he used to sing into his mic, and Filthy playing. So as a kid, by the time we got to open up for them back in the late '80s, '88, '89, and getting to meet them, that for me was fucking complete 360 for me. And then seeing that end of it, and as time went on, you get to see more English bands, and more, especially more European bands. That's when I became more clued in as to what was happening, and you're getting to see and hear more flavors. Yeah, you don't expect it to happen, but yeah, I've been lucky, really lucky.
Did you ever see that photo of me with Anvil and Motorhead when I was a kid? Do you ever see that? Ever see that on my website? There's a picture of me with Lemmy when I was 12 years old, and Filthy Phil.
I think so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you put that up one time, and
Yeah, a
you
couple
showed
of
that
times.
picture
Yeah.
with those
So,
guys.
so
When
what?
they were, especially when they were just starting their careers and stuff. Yeah, because those
Yes.
guys, because Anvil, I know, went to Europe many times and played.
Yeah. So I mean, what other bands inspired you? Did any English bands like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Saxon, all them sort of
Oh yeah,
bands?
for sure. Oh yeah, Maiden was a big thing for me. I mean, I had all the records. I had Killers. I had Peace of Mind, Number of the Beast, bought, and still have them today. You know what I'm saying, Jason?
Yeah.
Like, these are coveted fucking records for me. That where did it all start? Especially fucking when I found Venom in '84. I couldn't fucking believe that shit, man. It's like a kick in the balls, right? It's
Yeah.
like, fuck, yeah, it's something never so dark, no so fucking evil. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I see when I see that they did At War with Satan, it was fucking 20 minutes on one side. I was like, this is like fucking Devil Rush or something. It totally blew me away. I couldn't believe it. And then you see the videos, right? And that for me was like fucking inspiring. And then Abaddon with a fucking, it seemed like a 10,000 piece fucking kit back then.
Oh yeah.
Nobody was doing shit like that, man. Nobody.
I mean, I'm friends with Jeff Mantis,
Oh,
and I always say to him, "You look like fucking Vin Fuego from Bad News."
yeah.
He looks just like him back in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah. And I fucking seen and I seen all that stuff with fucking him and now Tony are together and shit. And they're fucking I think it was the Bloodstock show I watched. Fucking those guys live with him fucking singing and playing that show. What a fucking kick in the balls, man. I loved it. I was like fucking blown away.
Was that the Venom Inc. band or the Venom band?
Yeah, Venom Inc.
Right.
And Tony was singing for them. I fucking that kicked me in the balls like massive, eh? So I keep in touch with him. He's fucking great, man. When he comes to Canada, I got to get a chance to, hopefully by the end of the year, beginning of next year, to go out and fucking see them play, right?
Yeah, tell him I said hello, because tell him I said it's canny like.
No worries.
I have actually. Yeah, so I mean, when you think about Canadian bands, what bands did you grow up with the Canadian scene?
Oh fuck, lots. Well, I mean, most for me as in my early teen years, it was a lot of the fucking rock and roll stuff like Kim Mitchell, Max Webster. You hear a lot of that stuff, Saga, stuff like that shit. Came across I used to see a lot of simulcast stuff, like a lot of top 40 radio shit that I fell in love with. And it's still big with me, like Bryan Adams and all that stuff. I grew up all that stuff, right? And then as the metal flavor in Canada began to fucking form, because, I mean, then it was, the most metal fucking thing that I knew about when I was growing up was Anvil. They were the heaviest fucking band, and then it went from there, right? All of a sudden, Razor became about, and then you hear about those guys, and then by the time I joined in '85, they were the band, right?
Yeah.
So we were the young brothers from fucking Scarborough growing up and trying to find our way through the scene. And they're great, man. They treated us great. They gave us lots of shows to play, and we took advantage of it, and fucking did our own thing and had a really good time doing it.
Well, what about other bands like, for instance, like Exciter and?
Yes, of course. I remember fighting Beeler back in '84 because I had Violence and Force. I was hanging out with a whole bunch of guys and marveling at this drummer who could fucking sing, right, and play this shit at the same time. I was like gasped by it. And even today, Jason, when I seen him play in fucking Calgary, he's still doing it today. Blew me away, man. I couldn't believe it.
I mean,
I got to meet him.
I saw those guys a couple of years ago at Headbangers Open Air, and they've got Daniel Decay on guitar. He's a nice guy.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I get to meet. When we played with them in, I believe it was 16 or 15 or something. Jeff Ritchie was John Ritchie was still playing guitar for him then, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it was still the original three guys, and I was lucky to see that. I haven't seen Daniel yet because Daniel's now come in since Jeff's left, since John left, and they're the new guys on the scene. But I mean, I get to see them in about 3 weeks.
I mean, other bands like Canadian metal bands. For me, I grew up with bands like Sword and Kickaxe and
yeah, of course,
them sort of bands.
Yeah, those Canadian guys. Yes, of course. Yeah, we've Jason. We're lucky, to start where we did, and with metal being as new as it was, and still being revered on this at this time in metal history, for sure. So we've been lucky for sure, and still playing, and still vibrant, and still happy.
That's good. So moving on then, Gus, we're going to talk about the history, the beginning of Sacrifice. How did you guys all meet up? Were you in school together, high school? How did it happen? The Sacrifice history.
I didn't grow up with those guys. I grew up in the west end of Toronto. Those guys grew up in Scarborough in the East End. It was a high school thing. Guys knew about my background, knew I played drums, knew that I was liking a lot of the the heavier stuff, as they say, as metal became more prevalent, as the Metallica records came out, and Slayer and Anvil, stuff like that. Like I was attracted to a lot of that stuff, and sure enough, word got out that I played. They were looking for a drummer in April of '85. Next thing you know, I get a phone call. Bling. They hear about me. I end up going to Scarborough, trying out for them. Played a couple songs. I played Black Magic by Slayer. I tried out and played that song for them, and I can't remember the second song, unfortunately. We stopped playing. I went outside, had a cigarette. I was smoking cigarettes then. And Scott told me, he said, "Oh, you're in. Don't worry." He goes, "You're going to be the next drummer, man." I didn't think I was. They called me back in, Joe and Rob, and said, "Here you go."
Oh wow! So what band was you in before Sacrifice then?
This was it, Jason. I had no band. I was just another guy that going to shows. I had no band, no previous experience. Never been in a band before. I just love music. I love drumming, right? That was my thing. So I was lucky enough I could do the Dave Lombardo meter, right? How many guys could do that back in fucking '85? There's probably a handful of us.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
Man. So how many demos did you record with Sacrifice?
All of them. Every one except for Apocalypse Inside. I did Torment and Fire, For Determination, as well as Soldiers. We demoed each album.
Yeah.
So there was a demo for each one of those albums, recording. So 6 recordings then. And I don't know, maybe 100 shows over that life span between 84 or 85 and 1990. So I guess I was lucky for that regard. But I mean, we got to play some of the biggest shows. Like in '86, we played with Slayer at the concert hall here in Toronto, and that was on Rain and Blood. Wow. And yeah, we opened up for them that night, so we were lucky to get that stage at that time. And end of '86, like '87, '88, '89, '90, those 4 years were fucking big news for us, right? We played a lot of big shows.
So how many demos did you actually record before your first album?
None. Just the one. We did The Exorcism. That was done with Brian Taylor in June of '85. Then we recorded the album in September of '85. So it and then it started after that. So we ended up doing DRI, Voivod. I think it was the end of '85, and then all those shows the following summer. We did most of those shows in on a street called Bloor, and we played at a place called El Dico's, Starwood. We played with a lot of punk bands that summer. COC in '86. Got to play a lot of, I guess maybe headlining shows, if you want to put it that way. We got to do that. We didn't play as much with Razor that year as we did in maybe like '88, '89. Then we did more shows with those guys. But in '86, maybe beginning of '87, we were probably doing a lot more stuff on our own.
So the name Sacrifice, was that the first name the band came up with, or was there the other names?
I came into the band in '85, and they were already called Sacrifice. I seen them play myself in March of '85, so I seen a live show with them without me on drums. I was standing at the back of the club watching them play.
So was
Robin? Yeah. So I wasn't the original drummer. I was I think the fourth guy.
Okay.
So they had 3 drummers before me.
Right. So what happened to the old drummers? Where did they go? Did they go on to other bands, or did they just quit?
They just didn't play like Dave Lombardo.
Fair enough. Okay, then.
That's the way it was, right? I could play that thrash beat meter. Not a lot of guys could do it. So
wow.
That's that. I mean, I was lucky. Like I said, I was maybe like one of maybe 20 guys in the world at that time that could fucking play that meter. And yeah, they had a tough time finding guys to play thrash.
So what was your very first drum kit you bought? Can you remember?
Oh yeah, it was that Black Tama set that I was playing in '86. That was the very first kit I ever bought. Everything else I had were just loaners or friends' drums. That I remember I rented a kit and then rented the other half of the drums so I could have a double bass kit. That was a big thing. And then I bought my first double bass kit in '85, I guess, '85, late '85, just because you got to have a double bass kit, right? You got to have a
Yeah.
big kit. That was the look. That was the thing. So that's how I learned to train myself playing double bass. But back then you didn't have double pedals. You had singles and you had to mic everything. And most of the guys didn't have a clue about micing two kick drums. They had no idea about how to put it in a goddamn PA system. That was all new to those guys. I'm telling you. They had to learn with me about sound, about how to mic, basic, metal drums. Back then, they didn't have a fucking clue, Jason. And I should know just by listening to a lot of the recordings I've heard. I'm like, I can hear myself playing double bass, but did that guy know how to fucking turn that other kick drum up? What's his problem, right? Lost. But now you hear guys, and fuck, man, it's like drums, the sound today, everything is exactly what guys like me desire. You could fucking hear yourself. Back in the day,
Yeah, I know.
you could barely hear yourself. Now it's everybody gets it.
So I'm going to talk about the first album then, Torment and Fire. How did you come up with the title for the album?
Oh, all that stuff is Mr. Urbanetti. Rob comes up with all the concepts. The band name's his. He started the band, him and Joe. Torment and Fire is his creation, his little baby lyrics, all that stuff. And what I'm fortunate enough is to get credit for sitting in on the music, and I still get credit for that. So it's not always written, but they as a band acknowledge it, if you know what I'm saying.
So how did the record deal come about with Diabolic Force? What other labels approached you?
Yeah, no, that was between Rob, Joe, and Brian Taylor. Brian Taylor he's been associated with the band since I guess '84. When he found them, promised to do the demo. Those guys signed a 3-record deal with those guys then, and Metal Blade and Roadrunner, I guess, picked up the albums in Europe and in the United States. But all that stuff was done through those 3 guys.
Right. So can you remember all the good times you had in the studio for the first album? Can you remember all the memorable good times recording Torment and Fire?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We did it at a basement studio in September of '85. This was my first what I considered my first professional recording experience. But then again, I was at Acusonic when we did the demo too, and that was a professional studio. So I was blown away then, right? But yeah, they went to this basement studio in September of '85. I remember going into this little fucking room that's no bigger than this and recording my drums and stuff. And then the process of drums, bass, guitar, vocals, album,
Yeah.
mix album. That's the way it was always done. I'd be first. Well, they'd record me, and then they'd record Watts, or they'd record us together,
Yeah.
and then they'd do the guitar separately, and then lead separately, vocals, and then mix, process
Right then.
every time.
So what songs from the Torment and Fire album are your favourites and why?
Oh, I like playing them all. I could play the whole record. I'd play them all, Jason. Beyond Death is probably, it was one of the last songs we wrote for the album. It's probably the most progressive song we wrote for that record. But I love playing all of them. Homicidal Breath. I love playing Sacrifice. I still like playing, we always play Turn in Your Grave. We played that because that's the first song they ever wrote. So
Yeah.
We always play that every live show, which is for me is a personal favorite too. And Homicidal Breath, we always play that. I've been getting them to play Necronomicon more. Possession, not as much as anymore. It was more so in probably the first 3-4 years. And one time we could play the whole thing. We used to play everything: Decapitation, Warrior of Death. We don't play those songs as much anymore because Scott doesn't want to play them.
Why's that then?
I don't know, man. He just doesn't want to play them. I don't argue. I just say, all right, whatever.
So I mean, that first album, it's got a very Slayer sort of savageness, but it also, to me, it always reminded me of that band Slaughter that did the album Strapado, that kind
Yeah.
of vibe. Do you agree?
Yeah, we're good friends with them. They kind of rubbed off on us in the summer of '85 for sure. But yeah, uh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's a little darker than For Determination. You know, a
Oh
little bit
yeah,
more,
Savage,
a little bit more satanic. You know what I'm saying? A
raw
little
and
bit more.
savage, raw and
Yeah,
savage.
it more encapsulated how maybe Hell Awaits and and that first Slayer record. You know, Show No Mercy. Like those albums were, in our opinion, super savage, and even those Venom records, like couldn't believe how evil that shit was. So I guess yeah, we spent a lot of time trying to maybe to capture that vibe, and then by the time we started writing for Determination, yeah, our thinking was changing, our musical taste was changing. We're more concentrating on the speed end of it and the good, what we considered like really good riffs.
Right then, so the second album, Forward Determination, that happens to be my favourite album. But I know
Thank
what you
you.
say. I know what you're saying. It wasn't as savage as the first album, but it was more melodic, but still heavy.
Yeah, oh yeah, and for us, it was another step in another direction, basically. The
So what?
music, the musicianship, everything.
So what bands inspired you to kind of go less savage but still be heavy?
For me, I was listening to a lot of European thrash, Creator, Destruction, uh, admiring what those guys were doing with sounds and where they were taking songs. We listened to a lot of Exodus, seeing what that they were doing with songwriting, stuff like that. We listened to Trouble out of Chicago.
Yeah, I love
So
Trouble. They're one of my favourite bands as
you know
well.
what I'm saying? Like all these bands with great song structures, and they spent a lot of time writing good songs. So that rubbed off on us. I mean, I listened to Dark Angel too. When it came to speed, those guys were what I considered probably some of the best thrash speed bands. Hoagland blew me the fuck away when I first got that first Dark Angel album, and I guess Light of the End would for me would be a tribute to those guys about how fast they played a song and how tight they were, and I was inspired at that point to it's just like a couple songs off of For Determination had that vibe, right? That kind of
Yeah.
speed with that we're fucking gonna stick it in your ass kind of feel. And it continued to change as we got towards Soldiers too.
Yeah, I remember because like Dark Angel have recently reformed because Gene's gone back to Dark Angel.
Yeah, and Dave joined Testament,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
he's already started his runs, and apparently these rave reviews already. So yeah, they're planning on coming to Toronto probably in the next 6 months. So yeah, I'll get a chance to go out and see Lombardo play again.
Awesome. Like, I mean, that's a great album, Forward Determination. So was it Rob that came up with the title?
Everything, all the
Right.
lyrics, everything has always been done by Rob. That's his baby. That's
So,
his ideas, his flavor, all that stuff. That's really him.
so what's your favourite songs from the Forward Determination album? Do you have any?
All of them.
Yeah.
I love them all. Yeah, I love playing them all, and we've done that. We've gone out, we've played the whole record, and songs like Light of the End. I still love Jason. I still love playing For Determination to Terror Strikes, and we opened up every fucking show now since 2006 because of a recommendation from a close friend that said, I don't know why you guys don't open up with that song every show, every time. He goes, after you guys finish playing it, people just want to punch the fucking shit out of stuff. And we've done that now every fucking show since 2006. And it's sure enough, man, people absolutely lose their shit when they see us play that song. And I get it because I love playing it. It's just that I get to fucking step on the gas and set the pace. But yeah, I love playing that whole record. There's not a song off of that record I don't love playing.
I mean,
Er-
there's one song on the album called Reanimator or
Yeah.
Reanimation.
Yes.
There's a band in England from our home city called Reanimator,
Yes.
They released some records on Music for Nations, and they actually got the name from Sacrifice Song.
That's fantastic.
And the movie as well combined together, because I know the guitarist Mike is a big the guitarist Mike is a big Sacrifice fan, like myself.
Yeah. It's it's when I hear stuff like that, it's phenomenal. And yeah, that movie was a big thing for us back in '86, and or '85, '86 when we watched it. And yeah, next thing you know, Rob writes a song about it, and we write it. And that song was written like that, All of a sudden, we had the beginning, the main riff, and then we wrote the fast part, and it was over. It was just one of those songs. Like sometimes songs we've struggled to finish. Some songs it's taken us almost 2.5 years to write, and that song took us minutes to write.
Because
my mom and dad.
You released the promo video for that song, didn't you? Actually, got released on MTV.
Yes, MTV and Much Music here in Canada. Then it became a big. They used it as an intro for their metal hour that was played, I guess, every week for the first half an hour. So they used to put the song on, and because we were Canadian, and yeah, they gave us a lot of support, and everybody knew about us back in the day because of that. And then it filtered out through the world, and before you know it, everybody knew who we were.
I mean, there's one song on that album, Pyrogenesis. That's a pretty short song, but really in your face.
Yeah, it's kind of like our punk roots, right?
Yeah.
And those guys loved all that, all that early punk stuff. Especially my guitar players, Rob and Joe. They love that sound, and they love that crush, right? That DRI, fucking give you 2 minutes or 30 seconds, whichever it is, and stomp on you for 2 minutes, and then you're done, right? Yeah. And I used to like that too. I used to, yeah, that's. I was like, yeah, I like the short songs too, man. Because but then again, most of our stuff is all 5 minutes of this, 6 minutes of that. So yeah.
I mean, I wasn't really a fan of punk, but I was into the New York hardcore scene, like Cro-Mags, Ludicrous, Leeway, Agnostic Front, Bad Brains. I was into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
As opposed to the punk scene.
Yeah. So, yeah. A lot of guys, leave my guys. I'm for myself. You play enough shows with punk bands, you see enough of it. Those guys are always stuffing that shit up your ass anyways when you're at parties and stuff, and you always hear it, right? So, eventually you get used to it. I mean, for myself, I was fucking I love the rock and roll, the new thrash stuff, and I listened to a lot of stuff that come in from Europe, and you get a lot of tapes then, Jason, fucking guys that watch it to here, listen to this. So in the Walkman it went, and then you listen to it, or you get shit that DB's getting, tape trading stuff, You start hearing.
I used to do a lot of tape trading because Friday 13th started in 1988 as a fanzine.
Yeah.
So I used to get a lot of tapes from Metal Forces. I used to buy Metal Forces and write to all these bands, and they used to send me all these demos to review, which I've still got all of them.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. And there's every band used to do that too. That's how we got about.
All right then, Gus. So my next question is, I'm going to talk about the Soldiers of Misfortune, the next album. What songs from that album do you like? Because that was a slightly different approach as well. I noticed you started to get less aggressive, or was it the production that was getting lighter that kind of didn't bring out the music heaviness?
Yeah, for me, yeah, I guess maybe it got lost in the shuffle with everybody's expectations, stuff like that. I mean, I still love that record. It's not as thrashy as maybe the second or first records in regards to speed songs all the way through. We were more about songwriting then, and but I mean, I still thrived on the fast parts we wrote and how we wrote them. Not every song on that album has got mid-pace tempos to it, stuff like that. But still, we were still driven by that stuff. Then you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of bands like Point Blank and Trouble and all these bands still were Black Sabbath, old Black Sabbath, Dio, all that stuff, Deep Purple.
Basically, you were getting more mature. You were maturing as musicians and finding your roots.
Especially our sound and what we were listening to, right? We were more concentrating on song structure, songs themselves, being more creative with what we were writing. We were more profound about maybe our mid-play stuff as opposed to our thrash roots. And we were, in my opinion, I was way happier playing that kind of meter and being true to what what we were trying to achieve at that time. But I mean, you still hear songs like Pawn of Prophecy, and it's like we're still kicking you in the ass. But I mean, I guess people want would they rather have us written 2 5-minute or 3 4-minute songs as opposed to writing a song like Truth. Truth was 10 minutes of fucking we're finding our rush, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah. So what songs from that album do you like then, Gus? What's your favourites off the Soldiers of Misfortune?
Oh, I still love playing As the World Burns. I still love playing that song.
Yeah, good song.
Both live and practiced. We've been playing Existence Within Eternity more lately, so we're going to possibly play it in Vancouver. I still love playing In Defiance. We've played that song now every show since 2006. Always play that. Storm in the Silence is still that going into Lost in Time. So all that stuff together is still big for me. But I mean, I love playing that whole record. But people have asked us to play Truth. You know what I'm saying, Jason? And I say the same thing. The only way that song would be able to be played again is if we played together every day as a band, all 4 of us, for at least a year before we could learn to replay it again.
Okay, right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just being realistic. That's, in order to get the song as tight as it could be and more to that level of musicianship back in 1990, you just can't decide to play it and not play it as well as we did back then.
Right then.
I mean, we've tried it. It's never worked.